How should I say this? I think what I'm trying to say here is that Strava got it almost right, but not quite. What am I talking about? Strava is the closest thing that we've ever had to a real social network for athletes, a real social network for people who like endurance sports and other types of fitness and would like to connect. It's addictive. Lots of people enjoy using it, but when we're being honest, something's lacking. It's addictive, but it lacks some kind of a soul, some kind of a depth. It lacks the fine tuning to make it really, really good. Now, why am I talking about this? I made a video recently about the whole Strava versus Garmin shenanigans, and you guys were commenting, and that got really interesting because through your feedback, I started thinking deeper myself. So in this video, I would really like to just dive a little bit deeper into what would be the perfect version of Strava for me. What would be a really nice social network for endurance athletes, for users like myself and maybe like yourself. Let's start with the Strava problem. I call it shareholders first, users last. What do I mean with this? Strava is owned by investors. So what they want, what their priority is not your training journey, it's them extracting value from data. It's them monetizing data that we bring in. And you can tell by the way that social features, they stay shallow. Other features, they get gutted or they get paywalled. And it just turns into this thing that is just the X algorithmic feed that is prioritizing stuff that allows sponsored athletes or ads to be shown to us to extract more subscriptions and other types of value out of us and just make money based on our numbers. This is nothing new. I'm not going to go too deeply into this. Now, how did it get to be this way in the first place? This is because Strava is dominant. There's nothing else out there or nothing else left out there the size of Strava. So that's where they smell the value and that's where the investors come in. And as soon as they give you money, they have power over you. So not to be too cruel to the people who are actually building and running Strava, but once you have investors, they get to, they get to decide for a large part what's happening, what is not happening. There's been many things that Strava did right, and there's stuff that we can add on to it. And I'd like to focus on that first. So why would fitness people need their own network in the first place? Because we have tons of social networks, don't we? We have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have TikTok, whatever this is out there. I'm an elder millennial, so I'm not really into the TikTok thing, but let's take Instagram, for example. So me, when I'm doing sports or when I look at my friends who like to do endurance sports, of course, we do share it on Instagram as well. But Instagram is a place where looks matter and performance doesn't really matter. I think, okay, we can post our sweaty selfies to Instagram, but we're not going to get from it what we're seeking. We want to get recognition for what we've been doing, for our performance, for our training journey, for our goals that we're achieving, challenges we're setting ourselves, maybe epic trips we're going on. And we would like to have that seen and recognized in the sense of like, hey man, I appreciate your effort. I see what you're doing. And it's less about the way it looks. I mean, for me at least, I'm not going to be trying to pose in tight yoga pants. There's other people who fill that niche. But for a person like myself, it's not about the way it looks. It's about the what, the why, the grit, the effort, the training journey behind what I've been trying to do. That's what I want to show. And more traditional social media are not that suitable for that, I think. Another reason is the different ways of recording. We're all recording in all kinds of different devices. Like this is a Garmin Forerunner. I have a Garmin Edge head unit. Some other people are using Apple Watches. Other people use Fitbits. Some of them are just tracking runs with their phone. Some of them are just doing manual input. So we have all kinds of different ways of like bringing data into online platforms where we want to meet up with people. So this is what also came forth out of, out of my comment section there, is that people want to be able to share regardless of the hardware that they are using. We have to give kudos where kudos are due. This is what Strava got right, at least in the beginning. So the data became social. We replaced likes with kudos and we replaced the selfies with maps and statistics. Cool, good start. But then somehow along the way, Strava became another algorithm-driven attention machine, another look at me, place. And this is not what I've been looking for. What I want to get from an application like this is a sense of belonging, groups of friends, groups of like minded people, and motivation. Fractured ecosystems. Another problem we have is that users like us are spread across half a dozen apps. Like we're using maybe Garmin Connect, maybe Apple Health, maybe the Fitbit app. I'm also on Komoot, maybe doing stuff on Trailforks. Some people are on Training Peaks, etc., etc., etc. And most, if not all of these, don't, you know, automatically communicate with each other. And if they do, it's through APIs. And these API deals between commercial companies, they are a very vulnerable thing. And if something goes awry and their relationship sours or their APIs change, so there's something, a breakdown in relationships, or there's a breakdown in technology, tens of thousands, if not millions of people could use their data flow from one day to the next, which is a very real risk. This is why people are so upset or maybe just so anxious about the whole Strava versus Garmin thing. And it's a bit ridiculous. It's almost like, imagine you're trying to use Instagram, but it refuses to post your photos because your photos were not taken on an Apple iPhone, for example. So this fractured ecosystem divides us. It divides us not based on our interests or our geographies. It divides us based on hardware, commercial hardware. Before I become too complainy, I'd like to focus on, what do users like myself actually want from a social network like this? Let's make a little list. I would prefer recognition over performance. So what do I mean by this? Imagine there would be something like a consistency streak, just a streak, a score for showing up, or something like a grit score, something that rewards that type of effort. That would be a lot more meaningful to me than just, seeing a list with people having KOMs on segments. I'm never going to be in there. I don't care. So something like that would add value to me. I would prefer to have belonging instead of an audience. I just don't really care that much about being seen by randoms that I don't really know or are never going to connect with in real life. I would much more prefer to, discover or be discovered by local groups or groups with very specific similar interests. For example, let's say trail riding in the French Alps, something like this. I enjoy expression and not perfection. What do I mean by this expression, not perfection? I like to show what was actually happening, and you can really think of this visually. It's very simple. I enjoy looking at people's photos attached to their Strava activities. I like the fact that, you can add short video clips. This is really cool. Just visually showing it as it really was. Not too much, polishing of it. Just, this is what we did. This is what it looked like. I like to see that. I like to show that. I prefer discovery over competition. So what do I mean by this? I like the fact of a map-based community. And what I'm looking for there is like, hey, I want something to tease my curiosity. I want to ask the question, hey, what is this route or what's this trail? Not who's the fastest person on that route or that trail. And I do honestly feel like Strava caught glimpses of that and was doing some of that, but then somehow it got caught up in chasing monetization and I kind of lost that feeling. The heat map illusion. Guys, this peeves me so much. I think it is so silly that they're fighting about heat maps at all. This technology has existed for a very long time. And another thing that really peeves me is that I don't think heat maps are a really good tool for discovery at all. I don't think it shows us very much. The only thing that heat maps really show us is where people have gone. It shows you that something has been done many times and something might not have been done at all. It shows us where people go. It does not show us the quality of this trail. So, in a way, when I think about it, heat maps are just a visual representation of the lowest common denominator. What are most people doing? And there's no parameters about, the quality of this trail or, there's no ways for us to really add on, other parameters that we can just put in, like how visually good was it? What kind of surface was it? How do I this or that? I wish we could just put in more data and then discover trails and routes based on more subjective and objective data. I just need it to be more granular. And I couldn't care less about heat maps. I see heat maps. I think, oh yeah, this is pretty cool to see. Next, bomb. I would never use this for discovery. I do not think this is an essential part of discovery in an app like Strava. I do not believe for 1 second that either one of those companies really, has any huge claim to this technology. And I could not care less about them fighting about it. And basically, it just looks silly. Heat maps. I'll say it one more time and then I'll just never talk about it again, maybe in a different video. The only thing that heat maps show us is where most people have gone. It is the visual representation of the lowest common denominator of movement. It does not tell us about quality. And this brings us to the 3 pillars: social, discovery, performance. If we want to build an application like this, or if anybody wants to build an application like that, we need these 3 pillars. We need them to be balanced, and we need to hit the basic needs of users like myself in all 3 of them. If you put them in a little list, they will look like this. I want to belong and I want to interact. I want to explore and I want to discover. And I want to improve my performance. So how is Strava doing on these 3? I feel like the social part is just really superficial. Doesn't appeal to me at all. I feel like the discovery part of Strava has been paywalled mainly. Stuff like, I don't know, like downloading GPX routes or, extensive features to discover stuff has been paywalled. And about the performance part, I feel like the performance tools that are in Strava, and when you compare them to what else is out there, often for free, I feel like they have not only stagnated, I also feel like they're not really putting in a lot of extra value in there. It is worth it though to have a little closer look at, what might be a good middle ground to talk about performance. Stuff like, okay, just interpreting what I've been doing, not just in this one activity, but also across the last couple of weeks. What kind of data should be in there? How should it be shown? How much is too little? How much is too much? Now, what I really liked about Strava last time I tried the paid subscription and I paid for a couple of months was this fitness curve. It was really cool to see, relative to my efforts, that my fitness was rising and then maybe dipping again throughout the year. I think that was really cool. But I also think that this was not worth paying for. It's just like, okay, it's a cool thing. But then I had my free version of Garmin Connect. And I felt myself defaulting back to that a lot more to get that kind of data. Because they show me my training load in the last couple of weeks. They tell me, whether I'm productive, maybe I'm overreaching, maybe I'm in a recovery phase, maybe I'm even detraining. And this is all presented to me in a very easy, color-coded visual way, which is just really nice for me to look at. There's a running VO2 max, there's a cycling VO2 max. And if I want to see these things, I can just very easily see them at a glance in my free Garmin Connect app, which I don't feel Strava is really doing. But then, okay, you could go even deeper because with training data, you could go really, really crazy. Go to stuff like, the TSS. You could start talking about more abstract things like fatigue, form, fitness. And all of these terms seem to make sense at first until you start to really think about them and talk about them like coaches do. And unless you've been reading some really thick academic books or maybe taking courses on sports physiology and all that kind of thing, that is just too abstract, too deep for most users, not visually enough. I think Garmin is really beating Strava there at the moment. So yeah, it would be nice to have meaningful visual representations of how my efforts and accumulated performance have been stacking up, whether I'm doing the right thing or not, roughly across not only what I just did, one activity, but also multiple activities, without turning into a spreadsheet, without turning into a Training Peaks clone, without becoming a scientific data set. Privacy versus discovery, finding the balance. How are you discovered or not? What do you see or not? This is where I think that Strava still has a lot to gain. For example, when I open my Strava app, I just take my phone and I start scrolling. I often see just an ocean of things that I do not care about at all. Now, if some of my friends are watching this, I'm really sorry. I would like to encourage you to commute, but I do not care about your commutes. And I do not care about other people seeing my commutes. So if I need to scroll through this 30th day of seeing my friend Kun cycle to work, cycle from work, cycle to work, cycle from work, oh my God, I really don't care. I want to see meaningful activities. I want to see his trip to Spain where he's bike packing day to day. I want to see my other friend Graham doing maybe awesome alpine trails. So maybe long story short, there are certain types of activities that I really do care about and I want to see. And then there's just noise and clutter and they all appear in the same feed. And there's no really any way for them to determine or for me to determine what gets flagged as automatically show it and what gets automatically hidden. For example, I think there would be really lots of place improvement in having more granular control about this. For example, types of activities. I would like to label, or create a label commute. And then this label automatically stays hidden. Then maybe a different label, these are like awesome rides, epic ride. And if I choose this label, I want it to be automatically shown. Or the other way around. When I look at my feed, I want to hide people's commutes. Or maybe you want to see people's commutes and you want to give them kudos. It would just be nice to have some more filters. And there's more filters that I like to see there. For example, what about, stuff only making it visible to local riders? Or maybe you want to flag yourself as you're looking for training partners in a certain region. Maybe you only want to see joinable group events. Maybe you want to show only new routes since a certain time because you want to see if there's something new is popping up and you say, okay, from that date on, show me what's new, etc., etc. Maybe you want to just only see long rides. You don't want to see people's, lunch walks. You want to see their longer hikes. You don't want to see their commutes. You want to see their epic rides. More filters, more granular control. What can I see? How can I be seen? And vice versa. Having more control over this would make the difference between feeling watched and feeling seen for me. Maybe some things I just want to hide, and other things I'm proud of. Some things are just for me, and sometimes I want the struggle to be out there because I want to be slapped on the back and people to encourage me to keep going. The blueprint for an ideal social fitness network. We've talked about a lot of things here. So let's try to make this short little neat list, bullet points of what I would like to have in there. Device agnostic uploads. I do not want any corporate lock-in. I want to be able to, use whatever device. If it has a certain data format, use it. Which brings me to open data formats. I want to own my own data. I want to be able to import it, export it, and use it across multiple platforms. I would like to have meaningful social mechanics. I would like to have a human storytelling layer, and I would like to have enhanced discovery and privacy controls. I want this algorithm, if we need to have one, I want it to be user first. I want to see my circle first, athletes, sponsorships later, my people first. Why doesn't this exist yet? Open ecosystems do not make investors rich. Easy. Also, they have very little reach because they have little budget, etc., etc. I'm pretty curious to see what you guys think about all the things that I've listed here. I'm sure that I've forgotten many. I'm very curious to see what you feel should be in something like this. And last but not least, if you haven't clicked off yet, maybe we can build this. Maybe we can just join forces, get something started, maybe start building towards having an application or a network like this. I'm just being delusional. I'm just dreaming out loud. But, we're allowed to dream. Nothing comes from nothing. Let me know what you think. Thanks for sticking with me today, and maybe I'll see you on the next one.